Hello everyone and welcome back to more Final Fantasy VII. We are at part 7. In the last part, we just got out of Midgar, and in this part, we're in the overworld. But, strangely enough, this part is going to be very story focused. We won't be in the overworld for very long. We're about to get to a major backstory dump in this game. But first, I'm going to get our first enemy skill here from these enemies. These are these robot guys. They have the enemy skill Matra Magic, which we really want because that's really good early on in the game. It will one-shot most random encounters. It's non-elemental magic. It's pretty good. Like I said, the way enemy skills work is you just have to have the enemy cast whatever skill that can be learned on the person with the enemy skill materia equipped, and then there you go. They have learned the skill. So here I am just waiting for him to cast Matra Magic. There it is. Luckily, Matra Magic hits all targets, so we don't have to wait for it to hit the person holding the enemy skill materia. As long as they cast it and it hits, there you go. But anyways, after that, we are going to head into the town of Calm, which is where we are heading, of course. And then Cloud is going to tell us a little story. I say it like it's a bad thing. This sequence is actually one of the best parts of this game. What Cloud is about to tell is the story of what happened 5 years ago in his hometown of Nibelheim, which is commonly referred to by fans as the Nibelheim Incident. Final Fantasy VII is interesting because it's one of the first video games in general to kind of attempt a non-linear narrative, in the sense that a key event of this story takes place before the game begins. The Nibelheim Incident is incredibly important to the story. It's more than just backstory for characters to understand their motivations and stuff, because the earlier games had that. This is a key event in the story that you cannot understand this story without this event taking place. Also, I forgot to mention, I absolutely adore this overworld music. It is one of my favorite songs in all of Final Fantasy. I think it's just beautiful. But we are in the town of Calm now. We're going to head into the inn and have Cloud kind of catch everyone up on what the fuck's going on, what's up with Sephiroth, why is he so worried about Sephiroth and what he's doing. So let's just make our way up. There we go. So yeah, just buckle down. There's not going to be a lot of gameplay in this part. It's a lot of story. This is the most chatty Final Fantasy in the series up to this point. The first 6 games, while definitely having stories, especially 4 and 6, they are still not fully in the forefront. There's a lot more gameplay in those games. 7 is pretty chatty. Not as chatty as something like 9 or 10, but still, if that's not your thing in games, if you're more gameplay centered, I think this game still has you covered, but you just kind of got to sit through some sequences like this. Like, this is a 30-minute sequence of just story. But since I love the story, it doesn't really bother me. Cloud is giving us this backstory. This takes place 5 years ago when Cloud is 16. He is a newly recruited member of Soldier, working with the other member of Soldier, Sephiroth. And there's Sephiroth right there. This is the first time we actually see Sephiroth in this game, and I think it's kind of an interesting introduction. There's no real fanfare about it. He's just kind of there. But Cloud is here with 2 regular Shinra soldiers, one of whom is car sick. So that's fun. And Cloud, being 16, is kind of, you know, this upbeat, energetic kid, and Sephiroth kind of sees that about him. But Sephiroth seems pretty friendly, if a little distant, but still, he doesn't seem like too bad of a guy. I wonder what happened. But yeah. So they are heading to Nibelheim to investigate. There have been reported malfunctions going on at the Mako reactor on Mount Nibel. And and they are going to investigate to see what's going on. There have also been reports of monster attacks, so that's why Soldier is there to take care of the monsters. And speaking of monsters, there's one right there, and this is a glimpse at Sephiroth in battle. Sephiroth, as we will see here, is incredibly powerful. I mean, look at that HP. Cloud is only level 1 right now. He's pathetic, and he's about to kill Cloud. I kind of get bad luck here. This battle usually takes like 2 seconds, but the dragon keeps attacking Cloud, so Sephiroth keeps reviving Cloud. So it actually takes a bit to get through this battle. But Sephiroth knows, as you'll see he keeps attacking him. Sephiroth knows, as you can see, spells that we will be getting in endgame. So Sephiroth is very, very strong. And this is 5 years ago, so who knows how much stronger he is now. And you see he uses Flamethrower, and it doesn't even damage Sephiroth. It does 3,000 damage a hit. Cloud can only do 14. Sephiroth is a threat. He is strong. Look at that. Also, Sephiroth is a very cool character design. I like his character design a lot. And that sword is very long, but he looks intimidating. Cloud's sword is also gigantic, so who am I to judge? So Cloud said Sephiroth is not only super strong, but he's even stronger than what you hear in stories about him. So it's not exaggerated, the stories about him. They're understated, the stories about Sephiroth's strength. That's concerning. And Nibelheim, if you remember, is Cloud and Tifa's hometown. So, yeah, and here is some backstory about Sephiroth. Sephiroth's mother is named Jenova, which that name should sound familiar, and we will get to that. And his father, he never knew his father. But as of right now, Sephiroth thinks he's normal. He was told by, he never met his mother, but he was told by Professor Gast that his mother's name is Jenova, and she died as she gave birth to Sephiroth, which we know that's incorrect, and Barrett will point that out here in a second. And here is Cloud talking to some Shinra soldiers. The Mako smells pretty bad here. And Barrett's gonna stop Cloud and be like, wait, isn't Jenova the name of that freaky headless thing that they found in the Shinra headquarters? And the answer is yes. And Cloud's like, shut up, Barrett, we're gonna get to that. The headless. Okay, I think that's a slur or something. This game isn't exactly PC. But yeah. Tifa seems very intent on hearing this story. I think she's curious about something. So all the townspeople are staying inside. I love that line. Maybe they're afraid of us. It's good. It's a good line. But yeah, and in a minute we will be able to kind of explore the town ourselves, get some backstory, and even get some little secrets that I will show off. So Sephiroth is kind of a celebrity because of how powerful he is. And also, if you notice, the text there seems kind of weird. There's some doled out text at the bottom. That's a little weird. But anyways, Sephiroth's kind of a celebrity. Everybody knows about him because of how powerful he is. And that guy wanted even a picture with him. And we just went into Cloud's house. And he seems hesitant on telling this part of the story. But he is seeing his mother for the first time in years. His dad died when he was very young, so he just lived with his mom. And as he says here, in only a few days after he saw her here, his mom passed away. So maybe that's why he's reluctant on telling us. But yeah, this is another sequence that I love in this game. This entire sequence I think is remarkably well told, but this part has always stuck out to me. Him interacting with his mother, Cloud kind of seeming distant. I think there's a little more to the story here than meets the eye. this has always intrigued me. Cloud as a character intrigues me a lot, because he's so much more than just typical edgelord RPG protagonist, and that's what everyone thinks he is, and he's just not that. Anyone who's played this game knows that is not Cloud at all. And I, on a personal level, connect with Cloud a lot. And, of course, not to the same extent as what Cloud goes through, because you'll see, oh god. But I can't really explain why until later, because I will be spoiling aspects of this story, but let's just say Cloud is a very, very well fleshed out character, and definitely one of my favorite protagonists in the Final Fantasy series. This entire cast is incredibly strong, but as he says there, Cloud kind of just remembers his mother almost nagging at him. And this is Tifa's house, and Tifa's stopping Cloud and asking him, "Did you really go into my house? Like, what the fuck, man?" And we are going straight into her room. And this is a little funny thing here. If you examine the shelf, you get the orthopedic underwear. That's great. And you know it's true. I mean, come on. It's true. Cloud's creeping around a little bit. Here I am. I'm going to be fiddling around on the piano here for a minute. I'm going to cut this out. Just because I mess around on it for almost a minute. I cut it out, but this is the melody that you're supposed to play. It's the main theme of the game. You can kind of just sound it out by pressing buttons and stuff. I spent almost a minute there trying to remember what the melody is, but that'll be important later, because that is where we will get Tifa's ultimate level 4 limit break way later in the game. So you got to remember how to play that melody there. But yeah, that's about it that we can see in this town. We are going to go to bed for the night, and then the next day we will head up to the Mako reactor. It seems somehow familiar. That's odd. The NPCs are getting in the way. That's an issue with a lot of 90s RPGs. Sometimes NPCs will just like stand in your way and not move out of the way. It's more of an issue. This game's 3D, so it's not as big of an issue here. It's more of an issue in Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6. It can get kind of annoying. It never becomes more than, a minor inconvenience, but still. So we have a guide that's going to help us get to the reactor, and the guide happens to be Tifa. And her father is a little reluctant to send her along for more than just basic safety reasons. It'll get into that way later, but and Tifa's like, "I got 2 guys from Soldier, I'm good." But this begs the question though, if Tifa's there, Cloud didn't ever bring up the fact that they were childhood friends, as it already established. It never brought up the fact that Cloud and Tifa kind of had this reunited thing. In fact, Tifa doesn't seem to be making a big deal about seeing Cloud at all. And according to the game, according to the game, this is the first time they've seen each other in years, so that's a little weird. Oh well. They just took a picture with Sephiroth, it's fine. This is a nice little FMV. I actually think, in this game, FMVs with characters are very dated, and the FMVs in general are very dated, but I think FMVs look a lot better here when it's just showing off an environment. Like, I think this looks pretty nice, and there will be a few other cases of that later. When it's just showing off like an environment and there's no characters, because characters are much harder to animate, I think it looks really great. And holds up pretty well for the most part. Of course, the FMVs in Final Fantasy 8 and 9 are much better, and those games overall are graphically much better. You can get into random battles here, but you don't get experience for them, of course, because this is a flashback, and Sephiroth just annihilates, like, everything. Like I said, he has really powerful in-game magic here, so you don't have much to worry about. You can't die in this part anyway. But yeah. I like the bass in this song a lot. It's nice. and it just the bridge collapses. Oops. Luckily, all the important characters are okay. Of course, this is a flashback. It's not like any of them can die because we know all of them are alive. But yeah. There seems to be one person missing though. And Sephiroth kind of is like, we just need to leave them behind. Sephiroth, I mean, he doesn't seem like a bad guy, but he even from the beginning, he seems just a little like, I don't want to say mean, but more just like detached, I guess. It's weird. I like how Tifa's kind of supposed to be their guide, but she's kind of enamored by these caves and stuff. She should have probably seen them. Oh well. We got some nice backgrounds and stuff. I've always liked this background a lot. I think it looks really nice. Like I said, I know the game looks dated, but you just got to take it for what it is. And these backgrounds, if you look at them on their own merits, they're really nice, little pieces of art that kind of decorate the game. And also, all of the backgrounds kind of give this world a really... It does wonders for world building. It kind of gives it this really nice, lived-in feeling to it, especially in Midgar, because it all just feels really grimy and dirty, and like you really feel like you're in the slums in Midgar. But what we're seeing here is materia in its natural state. As Sephiroth explains, is when you condense Mako energy a lot, it turns into materia. And it's rare to see it in its natural state. The material that we're buying is produced artificially by humans. And as Sephiroth explains, materia holds wisdom from the ancients. Mako energy is part of the life stream of the planet, which holds the planet's knowledge. It'll explain more about the life stream later. But it's important to understand, like, the planet in Final Fantasy VII is very much alive. It's not just an object or a setting where the game takes place. It's very much alive, just as much as the people in it are alive. And I think that's really neat. But they're just making their way up to the Mako reactor. Yeah, and I kind of fumble around here in this background trying to get up the stairs. Because, this game, you cannot control this game with an analog stick. I know it's in 3D, but you actually have to control it with the D-pad. The more recent releases fix that. They still only have 8-directional movement, but you can use the analog stick, which makes things feel a little bit better, even if control-wise it's functionally the exact same thing. But, yeah, if you want analog control, it's just not in the original PS1 version at all, so keep that in mind. A lot of early PS1 games didn't have analog control because the DualShock didn't come out until 1997, which is the year that this came out. And if you know, PS1 controllers, like the base PS1 controllers, didn't have an analog stick or analog sticks. They only had a D-pad. So a lot of early PS1 games, because the DualShock didn't exist yet. I believe this game came out before the DualShock came out, I'm pretty sure. At least in Japan. So because of that, no analog support. 8 and 9 both do have analog support though, but the re-releases on more modern consoles of those games actually take it out, and it's back to only 8-directional movement, which is weird. And Sephiroth kind of has a weird reaction to seeing Jenova up there, reasonably so, because he thinks that's his mother. But he continues on with the mission anyways. So they're just here fixing the reactor, and Sephiroth notices something. He's wondering why it breaks. He looks inside, and he sees something that is bothersome. So Hojo, as we'll see here, is conducting experiments in this reactor, pretty horrific experiments, as we'll see here, he is putting living creatures, specifically humans, in pure Mako, and it's mutating them into these horrific monsters, and he's trying to do it to basically create a superhuman. And he's also putting some cells of Genova into them to try to make them an ancient, pretty much. Give them the powers of the ancient so they can hopefully find the promised land. That's what, Shinra's trying to do. And this is some horrific way of doing that, but he's basically producing monsters by doing it. And Sephiroth starts putting it together, and he realizes if his mother's name is Genova, then was he created this way too? Yeah, he was. He's putting it together. He was produced and using Genova and Mako energy to create this superhuman that he is, which is not good, and he is not a fan of that realization. That's a pretty horrific realization to have. But yeah, here's Sephiroth kind of talking about how he's always felt like he was different, but not like this. I mean, nobody would want to know that this is how they were created, through this horrific experiment that's creating monsters. Sephiroth kind of feels like, he's a monster now, especially after, that thing breaks loose. I mean, look at that. That's horrible. So that's not good. That's not a good thing. I don't think anybody would like that, to realize that, yeah. And Sephiroth at this point, he kind of loses it. And as we'll see here, and Cloud here is more focused on the fact that Shinra is producing these horrific monsters, and is kind of confused on what Sephiroth is getting on about. But as we'll see, as Red 13 says here, this realization explains why there are so many monsters in the world. That's kind of the explanation it gives. It's the Shinra's experiments that are creating these horrible monsters. But after that, they went back to Nibelheim, and Sephiroth just kind of disappears. And they find him in the Shinra mansion, which is, as Cloud says, the biggest building in Nibelheim, in the basement of the Shinra mansion. So that's where we are going to head right now to see what's going on. I mean, finding out your mother is this, Genova is not exactly the best mother to have. Finding out that's where you come from, that has to be hard. But we're going to go and confront Sephiroth here to see what's going on. Yeah, kind of a... Like I said, this game, on the surface, it looks pretty goofy, and it has goofier moments, of course, but this is not at all a kid's game. This game, I mean, it was rated T for teen, but and it goes over some pretty dark stuff, and that's something I really like about it. So this is Sephiroth reading and explaining. Genova is basically an alien that came to this planet 2,000 years ago that they found still alive, and they started conducting experiments on Genova, and they found out that Genova is an ancient, and that then they're like, well, what the fuck? And then they kind of got the idea to maybe they can inject the cells of Genova into humans and give them Mako energy and all of that stuff. Maybe that can give them the power of the ancients, which can lead them to the promised land, because that's what the ancients' purpose is, to go to the promised land. And Sephiroth kind of just wants to be alone. He does not want to be disturbed during this. And Sephiroth just kind of reads. He reads and reads and reads for days, getting all the information he can about this, and kind of uncovering the truth of what the Shinra is doing, and what Professor Gast and Hojo were doing. Professor Gast is the previous scientist working for Shinra before Hojo, but then Professor Gast passed away and Hojo took over, and Hojo is not as mentally sound as Professor Gast was. Not to say Gast was really sound either, but Hojo will do anything for the sake of science, so he's not a great guy. But anyways, ominous music is playing, so something's about to go down. Sephiroth, well, Cloud's going in to check on Sephiroth again. As Cloud said, he kept checking on him. Never once in the basement did the light go out. He was just constantly reading for days, gathering all the information he could. And, I mean, we know how strong Sephiroth is, so him breaking will not go over well to anyone. Traitor? How rude, Sephiroth. So, here we go. So, the Cetra are originally from other planets. They migrate in, settle, try to find the promised land. But some people didn't like that. They wanted to stay put. So they did, and ended up kind of killing off the Cetra, which are everyone else's ancestors. So the Cetra kind of died out, and our people lived on. So Sephiroth now sees us as traitors because he realizes that he is also an ancient, because he has the blood of Genova in him. So Sephiroth doesn't like this at all. So yeah, he's not a fan of this, and also not a fan of the idea that he was produced. He's not a normal human being. He's hardly even a human being at all. He's this produced science experiment to try to give somebody the powers of the ancients. But Sephiroth's had enough talking. He, as he says here, he's gonna go see his mother. I've always loved that moment, that musical cue there. It kind of gives me goosebumps. This is Sephiroth's theme playing here. No, his theme is not One-Winged Angel. This is Sephiroth's theme, and it's called Those Chosen by the Planet, and holy shit, what a villain theme. Sephiroth, as you can probably tell, he is not the deepest villain in the world, but Sephiroth is a great villain because he is exactly what this story needs a villain to be. He is a threat. And goddamn, he is threatening. You'll see more of him we'll see more of him later, of course, but as you see here, in an instant, he has destroyed this entire town. He's had it. He's lost it. But yeah, that's the important thing about Sephiroth. He is a threat that needs to be stopped, and he conveys that so well, and that's what makes him such a memorable villain, because of how threatening he is. We're going to check this house. This is Cloud's house, if you remember, and Cloud walks in to see a pretty horrific sight. His mother dead. Sephiroth killed her. So, as Cloud says, Sephiroth, this is too terrible. And yeah, it's pretty terrible what Sephiroth has done. And here's Sephiroth just massacring some of the villagers. And oh man, that is a great shot. This is a great FMV. I get like goosebumps during that. I love this game, but he is a great villain. Sephiroth is one of my favorite villains in the series, probably only beaten by Kefka, just because Kefka is a bit of a deeper character than Sephiroth is, but Sephiroth is so memorable, and I mean, just because of how powerful he is, how threatening he is. He's great. And we are just making our way down here. We got to confront Sephiroth. I mean, we can't just let this fly, especially since, as we see here, if you remember, this is a flashback that Cloud had in the Sector 5 reactor, I believe, of Tifa crying out her hatred for the Shinra and Sephiroth, because Sephiroth just killed her father. And now we get more context to this, of course. Tifa is going straight to confront Sephiroth, which, let's just say this isn't going to go well. It doesn't go well at all. Sephiroth just pulls his sword away and slashes her across the chest. Ouch. Of course, she survives this, but she's pretty gravely injured after this moment. And here comes Cloud, and Tifa brings up the promise again that they made when they were kids. And Cloud kept his promise. He came when she needed him. And now he's gonna go confront Sephiroth, which I think we all know how this is gonna go. But what other choice do we have? I've always loved this background too. Jenova is so freaky. And then it almost looks like, it does look like an angel, that little machine that Jenova's in. So Sephiroth's goal is to take the planet back, reclaim the planet as ancients there, who he believes are the rightful owners of the planet. And Sephiroth has become completely, he's lost it. Now generalizing everyone who isn't an ancient, calling them just they. Worthless creatures. So yeah, I mean, like I said, he's not the deepest villain, but he is incredibly memorable just because of he's just cool. He's just a cool villain. He has this great, anytime he's on screen, there's just this presence to him. I also always love this FMV. It's kind of freaky. There's some freaky imagery in this game. That's I just think it's great. There's Jenova, but why was Jenova missing her head in the Shinra headquarters? And Cloud tries to reason with Sephiroth, but that doesn't go very well. Sephiroth at this point can't be reasoned with. He has a goal in mind, and he's going to make that goal a reality no matter what. He needs to reclaim the planet. And seizure warning here. Close your eyes if you don't want to. Yeah. But yeah. That's the end of Cloud's story, as he says here. And Barrett rightfully is like, what the fuck, Cloud? What happened? But Cloud doesn't remember. There's clearly some holes in his memory in this story that he doesn't remember. But clearly Sephiroth is alive, so there's no, as they say, the Shinra newspapers declared him dead, but you can't rely on that because the Shinra owns the papers, and clearly we know he's still alive. So what's going on here? Why is Cloud alive? He confronted Sephiroth and lived. What's going on? So clearly some stuff doesn't make sense, but all that we know is Sephiroth's here and we gotta stop him. But yeah, story-wise, that's going to be about it for this part, except Tifa asks one question. Tifa seems confused about some stuff. But that's all we're going to get out of that right now. Just, yeah, she isn't fully satisfied with that story. But anyways, story-wise, that's going to be about it for this part. We are going to be doing some shopping now, getting some equipment and stuff from this town, and also exploring around because this town is full of goodies. But yeah, all towns kind of have all these goodies hidden around, but this one in particular has quite a bit. Like this one, which seems inaccessible at first, but just keep checking it, and then like after 5 times, Cloud will get frustrated and kick it, and then it'll fall over. See? And it's Mega Elixir, which Mega Elixirs are super rare items that will fully heal the HP and MP of the entire party. So basically, only use them if you are in a desperate emergency, or if you're like at end game and can afford wasting items. But yeah, we're just kind of going around getting these items and stuff. Ethers, like I said, if you're ever hurting for money and don't want to grind for whatever reason, you can sell those for like 750 gil each. So that's good, especially early on. That's quite a bit. And I don't really use ethers ever, so that's worth it, because you have plenty of MP. Unless you're just using like high level summons constantly, you shouldn't run out of MP ever really in this game. So that's not really a thing that you have to worry about. I would always keep a few ethers, of course, just in case of an emergency, but you know, if you want to sell a few for some money, go for it. But yeah, I'm just exploring around, making sure I don't miss anything. That weapon we just got, that's the Peacemaker, which is a weapon for a party member we won't get until way later. This game is actually has some optional party members. There are 9 party members total. 7 of them are required to get throughout the main journey. 2 of them are optional. I highly recommend you get them both though, because they add a lot to the story. Especially one of them adds a ton to the story that you wouldn't get otherwise. So I would highly recommend getting both of them. Of course, just having more party members is always a plus. We will actually be meeting the first optional party member next part, so that's fun. But yeah, I would highly recommend getting them. Even if you don't use them for your party. Like I said, they add extra story stuff and extra content to the game, which is great. And here I am just buying some materia. I actually, at the end of this, because I haven't been grinding at all, usually I grind a bit, not because I have to, but just because I'm OCD about RPGs for some reason. So I usually have more money than I do right now, and that will actually come bite me in the ass later, because later on there's something you need to... Our next destination is going to be the Chocobo farm to the east, and you actually need to buy something there for 2,000 gil, and I don't have enough, so I have to actually step out for a bit and grind. It's not too bad though, I don't have to fight like 3 or 4 battles, but just remember, go into the Chocobo farm with 2,000 gil to be able to buy that thing. Okay, I'm just equipping everyone with the new materia. Heal materia I almost never use. Will heal status ailments and stuff, of course. Status ailments are so not really a big deal in this game, which is, if you remember, one of the reasons I complimented this game's battle system, because of the de-emphasized status effects, because I think status effects overall are kind of annoying. But still, if you're ever in a pinch and like maybe poison's about to kill you or something, then that's good to have. Or you can buy some antidotes or whatever. And I just spent the last of my money buying an extra tent, just because, you know, why not? I'm not really using tents early on in the game, like I said, but oh well. It's good to have in case. Anyways, we are back in the overworld, and that's going to do it for this part. Thank you for watching. Next part will be a very gameplay focused part, so look forward to that. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time for more Final Fantasy VII.